Braxton County, West Virginia. A quiet wooded place where time moves a little bit slower and stars shine a little bit brighter. But one autumn night in 1952, something came streaking across the sky, and what followed, it was no shooting star. 7 witnesses, a red glowing pulse in the trees, a sickening smell that burned their eyes, and then a monstrous figure 10 foot tall emerged from the mist. It didn't walk, it glided, its face red and round like a blood moon, eyes burning orange, arms long and clawed. No one knew what it was, but they all ran, and by morning, the monster had vanished, leaving behind only fear and the lingering smell of something not of this earth. Tonight we open the case file on one of America's strangest encounters, a story where a supposed alien sighting, mass panic, and military investigation collide. September 12th of 1952, Flatwoods, West Virginia. What began as a quiet evening at a pickup football game ended in terror when a flaming object lit up the skies and came crashing down to a nearby hillside. But what truly chills their story is what came after the fall. 7 people, 5 of them children, would claim they saw something inhuman emerge from the darkness. A creature with no feet, no face, and only glowing eyes, a red mask, and a metallic skirt that hissed when it hovered. The story would grip a nation already on edge. We're talking the Cold War, UFO sightings, and government secrecy. Was this a visitor from the stars or something even stranger? Tonight we retrace the echoes of the Flatwood Monster, an entity born of fire, shadow, and perhaps our deepest fears. Let's retrace the echoes, if you dare. Now, it started out as any other night in the sleepy town of Flatwoods, West Virginia. We're talking about it being quiet and serene. Some would say ordinary. Brothers Edward and Freddie May, along with their friend Tommy Heyer, they tossed a football back and forth as dusk slowly draped the hills in the shadows. But then at precisely 7:15 in the evening, something appeared in the sky, something bright, blazing, and downright impossible to ignore. A fireball hurtling through the evening twilight, illuminating the hillside, streaking across the horizon with fiery intensity. Then, just as suddenly, it vanished behind the distant tree line, crashing down on Farmer G. Bailey Fischer's property, hidden by darkness, smoke, and shadow. The boys stared at each other, excitement and fear mixed in their eyes. Edward broke the silence first. We got to see what this was. But they knew they better not go alone. Within minutes, Edward and Freddie burst into their mother's kitchen, breathless with adrenaline. Kathleen May listened skeptically at first until she saw genuine fear in her child's eyes. Now, with a mother's intuition and determination, Kathleen May gathered a small group, including 17-year-old Eugene Lemon, who was a National Guardsman, and even their dog, Richie. Now, with flashlight in hand, they set off into the rapidly darkening woods, driven by curiosity, excitement, and a creeping, unspoken dread. Now, as they approached Fischer's farm, the group paused at the bottom of a steep, wooded slope. A strange pulsing glow illuminated the crest, and it was deep red, like a heartbeat, lighting in the darkness. Calming themselves, they ascended the hill slowly, cautiously. Every step forward, it would bring an intense, disturbing odor, metallic, and it was foul, like sulfur mixed with burnt metal, and it was overwhelming, and they would even say later, even nauseating. Now their dog, Richie, he suddenly barked nervously and bolted ahead into the shadows. Moments later, he would return, whimpering and cowering, tail tucked between his trembling legs. Eugene raised his flashlight, cutting through the darkness, a rustling sound. There was something that was moving quietly in the trees. Now Eugene's beam had steadied, and it stopped abruptly. There, caught in the harsh glare of the flashlight, a towering figure emerging from the darkness, and there it stood. Or should I say it was hovering. 10 feet tall, its face was round. It had glowing like a red mask that was framed by this like strange, almost like pointed hood. Some would say was shaped like the ace of spades, orange eyes that was burning fiercely, set within the gruesome crimson face. His body draped in a metallic robe, twisted claw-like hands extending towards them. At the edge of the Fischer farm hillside, beneath the night sky now ominously silent, Kathleen May, Eugene Lemon, and 5 children stood frozen, paralyzed by the impossible figure now bathed in Eugene's flashlight beam. It hovered silently, a grotesque silhouette nearly twice their height, suspended just mere inches above the ground. Its eerie red face, it seemed to glow internally, the strange pointed hood framing its piercing glowing eyes. It almost seemed like it was burning directly into their very souls. The monster's lower half shimmered in the flashlight's trembling beam, metallic robes rustling slightly, not by wind or even from movement, but seemingly by its own unnatural energy. Clawed, twisted arms stretching towards the witnesses, fingers outstretched like gnarling branches. Now Lemon, he gasped, stumbled backwards in a panic. His flashlight, it clattered loudly onto the rocky soil, beam flickering chaotically. In that moment, the creature let out an unearthly shriek, high-pitched, metallic, piercing, a sound never meant to be heard by human ears. Panic erupted. The group turned, frantically scrambling down the steep hillside, slipping, falling, hearts racing in blinding terror. And behind them, the figure moved, not walking, gliding smoothly over the uneven ground, following, watching. Nobody knew what was going to happen. Now Kathleen May, driven by sheer maternal instinct, desperately guided the children away. Behind her, the noxious smell intensified, metallic, burning, sulfurous, choking the group, causing their eyes to water, their throats to even burn. They ran breathless, stumbling, fear just totally propelling them forward. When they finally reached the bottom of the hill, they turned briefly. The glow above, it was still pulsing, steadily, hypnotically. But the creature had vanished, melted back into the shadows as suddenly as it had even appeared. As they caught their breath, they realized that the terror, it was not over. Nausea had overwhelmed several of the members of the group, intense, painful sickness that would persist through the entire night. Now the experience had not just terrified, it had also physically marked them. As they stumbled back into Flatwoods, the group reached the home of a newspaper publisher, Stewart Jr., and they recounted their harrowing story. Now, Stewart later described their faces as pale, their voices as trembling, almost as though they had like a residual terror. Something unexplainable had definitely happened on that hillside, and it was something that none of them could really articulate. Now, Stewart, he was skeptical, but he was compelled by the raw fear. So he armed himself and he quickly gathered a search party. Returning to the site, they discovered large patches of flattened grass, 2 circular depressions where something heavy that had definitely rested, and an oily residue that defied any kind of easy explanation. But there was no monster now, only silence, lingering dread, and the unmistakable metallic stench that seemed to permeate from the very earth itself. Now, as morning broke over Flatwoods, news of the terrifying encounter had spread rapidly through the quiet Appalachian community. Skepticism had clashed openly with fear as neighbors debated what exactly had appeared on that dark hillside. Now, within days, Flatwoods transformed from sleepy town to national headlines. Newspapers across America, they carried a sensational account of a 10-foot-tall, red-faced monster, a creature the witnesses swore hovered silently, radiating an overpowering odor that made their eyes sting and their throats burn. But not everyone believed the fantastic accounts. Local authorities, they quickly dismissed the incident as just, hysteria. suggesting the fear and imagination. It twisted all of the witnesses' perceptions. But the U.S. Air Force, it wasn't so quick to just dismiss the story and to push it to the side. At that very moment, a secretive military project known as Project Blue Book, it was actively investigating reports of unexplained aerial phenomena across the entire country. Now, just days after the sighting, a team of Air Force investigators, they would quickly arrive in Braxton County. They would carefully interview each and every single one of the witnesses. They would then examine those flattened grass circles and collect samples of that strange oily residue that was discovered at the very scene. Project Blue Book? It had been established to explain away UFO sightings in a very logical and easy way to provide a calm and rational answer to a very nervous public. And their official conclusion? It came very swiftly. You see, the fireball that had streaked across the very night sky, it was simply just a meteor, seen clearly that night over multiple states. The monster? Military investigators, they suggested the witnesses, already startled and panicked, had likely just misinterpreted something far more ordinary, perhaps an animal that was distorted by the darkness and even probably by fear. But if it was simply panic and misperception, why did multiple witnesses suffer nausea and illness long into the night? Why had animals reacted so fearfully, fleeing from something unseen and powerfully present? I mean, though Project Blue Book publicly closed the case, privately, doubts lingered. I mean, the Air Force record acknowledged certain anomalies that remained unexplained. For one, the oily residue, the nauseating odor, and the vivid consistencies of the eyewitnesses' descriptions. Meanwhile, the people of Flatwood struggled to regain any kind of normal life. I mean, reporters and curiosity seekers, they flooded the entire town. Witnesses faced ridicule, well, at least from some of the neighbors, and others, they would quietly support them because they believed that whatever had happened had truly happened to each and every one of them. I mean, they all had the same exact story. And quietly, in living rooms and church pews, around kitchen tables and porch swings, whispers of the Flatwoods Monster spread. The encounter had touched a nerve deep within the Cold War psyche, a time when Americans, they watched the skies, not knowing whether the next thing would descend would be a friend or a foe, or something even stranger. In the end, Project Blue Book officially labeled the Flatwoods explainable, a meteor combined with mistaken identity, yet the file remained a quiet testament to the limits, a rational explanation. Official answers had been given, but had the truth, had it truly been revealed? Or did something genuinely unearthly visit Flatwoods that autumn night? Something the Air Force itself could neither fully understand nor publicly acknowledge. The answers, locked away behind government doors, remained quietly elusive, concealed within files marked closed. Now, in the aftermath of everything that happened, there was two very sharp and contrasting ideas and concepts that was dividing neighbors and friends and even families. I mean, for some, it was a simple and terrifying encounter with something that was otherworldly. But for others, it was a case of imagination gone wildly astray. Now, believers, they pointed to the striking consistencies of all the eyewitnesses' descriptions, 7 separate accounts that all matched in very remarkable detail. The towering figure hovering silently above the ground, the pointed hood, the glowing eyes, the metallic robes, and of course, the overpowering metallic stench that left several witnesses physically ill. Now, UFO researchers, they quickly classified Flatwoods as a genuine close encounter of the third kind. Now, that's a category reserved exclusively for encounters with actual beings associated with the unexplained aerial phenomena. Now, some went even further, suggesting the creature might have been an alien scout or possibly even a probe, a mechanical being designed for exploration. But skeptics, they were equally adamant. They quickly pointed to a far more ordinary explanation, one that I can't help but smile a little bit. And we talk about it on my other podcast quite often on Deceptive Reality. If you've not checked it out, definitely go check it out. But whenever there's a case of a UFO, or in some occasions cryptids or ghosts, they have this theory. It's called the owl theory. I find it absolutely absurd most of the time, but skeptical researchers, they do highlight the conditions that very night. They talk about it being super dark, and there's obviously going to be a little bit of panic and some confusion. They argue that the so-called monster was probably nothing more than just a large barn owl. Now, I will say the barn owl, when you look at it, if you look it up, it does have this round, pale face. And it can reflect the same colors that they were talking about that night, that reddish orange hue, and it can do that under certain lighting conditions. Now, their reflective eyes glowing eerily bright, especially when you put a flashlight on it, is what they're saying that everyone saw. Now, in moments of fright, barn owls, they extend their wings all the way out and their talons very aggressively, which skeptics argue, well, that could easily be just interpreted as twisted claw-like arms. Even the monster's pointed head that they talk about, like the ace of spades, that could be explained away. I mean, when you think about the owl, the distinctive feather pattern that would be across the owl's face, it closely resembles the shape that everyone said they saw. Now, further supporting the skeptical point of view was the confirmation that there was indeed a meteor that streaked across the sky. Now, this was seen by multiple witnesses across multiple states at the same exact time. Now, this meteor was widely reported, documented, and even scientifically verified. As for the red glowing light that they saw when they was climbing that hillside, they believed that it was just aircraft warning lights that was visible through the dense trees of the hillside. They kept saying that whatever this flashing red light was, it was easily explainable. It was just misidentified tower lights that was distorted by the mist that was on the side of the hillside and for the panic that was running through the family. But skeptics, even though they had all these answers for all these different things, they had no convincing answer for some of the lingering questions. I mean, if it was merely just an owl, then why was so many experienced locals that was familiar with all the wildlife that was there so drastically misinterpreting what they saw? I mean, how could an owl generate the overwhelming, sickening stench that was described by multiple witnesses and later confirmed by a local search party? I mean, that doesn't make any kind of sense, am I right? But yet, the debate between the skeptics and the believer, it intensified, each side gathering all kinds of different thoughts and theories, each convinced that they held the truth, yet neither side could fully explain the very facet of the encounter. Now, to this very day, the owl theory, it remains the leading skeptical explanation, but it is far from being universally accepted. The believers, they remain unconvinced. They say that what happened in Flatwoods that night, they believe that what they witnessed was something truly extraordinary, an alien visitor, an unknown entity, perhaps something stranger still. Now, ultimately, Flatwoods remains a story suspended between, well, truth and legend, skepticism and belief. A story defined as much by unanswered questions as by an explanation that was offered. Now, decades have passed since that very night there in the Flatwoods, but you see the story continues to echo on in local folklore and global pop culture. I mean, what began as a terrifying mystery has kind of evolved into a cherished piece of Appalachian legend, a story proudly claimed by the very community that it once terrified. Today, Flatwoods, it openly embraces its monster. Visitors are greeted by a welcoming sign declaring, "This is the home of the green monster." Local businesses, they sell everything from t-shirts to coffee mugs to bumper stickers, all with the creature's very weird, very distinctive look. And in the heart of Braxton County, the Flatwoods Monster Museum, it proudly displays artifacts of that very legendary night. Everything from local newspaper clippings, eyewitness testimonies, and perhaps the most chilling, the original artist's sketch, drawn just mere days after the encounter. But the Flatwoods Monster legacy, it reaches far beyond just local pride and a little bit of memorabilia that's sold. It's become firmly embedded within the fabric of global pop culture. The monster's unmistakable appearance in and of itself, a red round face, glowing eyes, a metallic cloak. That's instantly recognizable. The creatures appeared in video games, films, television, comic books, and even inspired a character in very popular digital media, notably the widely acclaimed video game Fallout 76, which is set in West Virginia. It features a mysterious entity directly based on the Flatwoods Monster, offering new generations a taste. Even famed UFO-ologist and author Gray Barker, himself a Braxton County native, played a very critical role in popularizing Flatwood within the UFO culture. His early writings about the creature, it helped catapult the story into a much wider consciousness, forever linking Flatwoods deep within the UFO folklore. Yet beneath this cultural fascination lies a deep psychological layer, the need to confront the unknown. In the decades following the encounter, the Flatwoods Monsters come to kind of symbolize our collective anxieties about all the universe's vast unknowns. Its lasting power, it comes from what it represents, the possibility that perhaps we're not really alone, and that our quiet lives can be changed in just an instance, shattered by events that we can't even comprehend. For the people of Flatwoods, the monster's legacy is what's complicated, both a burden and a sense of pride. Older residents, they still remember the panic, the ridicule, the sleepless nights of uncertainty. Yet newer generations, they embrace the tale wholeheartedly, weaving it into their own very identity. Now, perhaps in the end, the true legacy of Flatwoods isn't just about proving exactly what was hovering far above on that hill back in 1952, but about our timeless fascination with the mysteries that's far beyond our understanding. Mysteries that challenge us, that frighten us, and ultimately remind us that we have no clue what happens on this spinning rock that we call Earth. Flatwoods, West Virginia, name forever linked to mystery, to fear, and to wonder. We're talking about on one cool September evening, the ordinary became extraordinary. The quiet peace shattered by something completely unexplainable. Now I ask you, what's the truth behind the eerie figure that hovered silently? What do you think? What was the glowing red eyes that was piercing through the darkness? Was it a visitor from far beyond our world? An elaborate hoax, or simply just a trick of shadows and fear? We may never know exactly what happened on that night in 1952, but I'd love for you to tell me what you believe it was in the comments down below. Official reports, they offer explanations. Skeptics, they provide theories, and believers, they hold steadfast to the extraordinary claims. Yet somewhere in the murky twilight between certainty and disbelief lies the essence of true mysteries. The Flatwoods Monster has become more than just a local legend. But what about you? Have you ever glimpsed something unexplainable in the shadows? Felt eyes watching from the darkness, or sensed a presence that couldn't quite be rationalized? If you have, we would invite you to share your experiences in the comments down below, or if you'd prefer to be a little bit more secretive, you can visit the website www.retracedechos.com. There you can share your story, and no one else will know unless you agree to allow me to do a podcast on it. Now just understand, your story might hold a very critical piece to understanding the mysteries, much like Flatwoods Monster. Mysteries that challenge the boundaries between our understanding and reminding us that sometimes the truth can be stranger, darker, and far more incredible than anything we've ever imagined. Subscribe now and join us again next time as we continue our explanation into stories that defy explanation, journeys into the darkness where truth and legend, where they oftentimes intertwine. Until I see you in the next podcast or the next video, goodbye.